Hello whistleblowers everywhere. Today I'm going to do a tutorial on some finger articulation exercises. So these will be done both tongued and slurred. So tonguing is where we're going to tongue every single note, and we're going to use what's called a legato tonguing, and I'll explain the difference between legato tonguing and other kinds of tonguing when we do the exercises. The other way, of course, is slurred, and that's where you tongue the first note and then you go all the way up and all the way back down in the one breath. If possible, if you need to stop and take a breath, that's fine. Just tongue the first note after the breath and then continue with the legato phrasing. So basically, the tongued version will have all the notes tongued in it, and the slurred version will have, if you can, all the notes slurred in it, and it's good to be able to do both. We do use tonguing sometimes in music, and even though I teach my students at the beginning to work on legato, smooth, slurred finger articulation, it's handy to be able to use legato tonguing as well. It is used, I use it quite a bit, so it's good to have both skills. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with just some simple scale exercises, and then we'll have a look at maybe some arpeggio exercises, and then we'll have a look at some finger articulation exercises. So it's not hugely interesting, as we won't be doing things like tune breakdowns or ornamentation, but this is very useful technique, and also I'm going to talk a little bit about fingers and some of the basic stuff, which is really important. So without further ado, here's exercise number one. We're just going to blow up and down the scales. I'll talk a little bit more about them and the kind of scales and what they're called. So this is our first scale. It's the scale of D major. So we're going to play it with C sharp. And again, like most of the exercises, we'll also play that with C natural, which will change the scale slightly. It'll become a different scale, but for now, we'll just use the C sharp. So to start with, we're going to slur, and slurring starts, tongue the first note and then just go up and down. So I've set my click to 60, and we're going to work at that speed. So first of all, we're going to play 2 notes per click, so it's going to go da 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 da. So basically they're going to be eighth notes, and then we're going to do 4 notes per click, so we're going to play 16 notes or semiquavers. So we tongue the first note, and then we're going to move our fingers all the way up to the D and come all the way back down again. So if you run out of breath, as I said, don't worry, just take a breath in time and then try coming back down and tongue the first note. So this is our click. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 1, 2. So first of all, I'm going to do it slowly to show you my finger position. So again, I tend to use my little finger there as an anchor when I'm going up, and then I put it back down again and then lift it when I sort of get to the F or the G, probably the G. I'll lift it up, and then these fingers can be nice and supported. So we're just going to go all the way up and all the way down if possible. So you just play the D at the top. As soon as you hit the D, you come back down again. So it's our scale of D major again. So tongue the first note, and when you're lifting your fingers, again, try not to let them fly off the whistle if possible. Try and keep them fairly close. Yeah, nice, relaxed, soft fingers. So I've set my click to 60. We're going to go up and down the scale of D major. 1, 2, 1, 2. So when you're practicing this, try and make sure your fingering is even and you're moving in a nice steady pattern. Hence why I use the click. It does help to keep your fingering and your articulation smooth and in time. So we're going to do it on D, then we move up to E minor. So this is, well, rather E Dorian, because we've got the mode, the Dorian mode, which is a minor mode. So we're doing the same thing, but just going from E to E. And then F to F. So this has a very interesting name. F sharp to F sharp with the C sharp in it is known as Phrygian mode. So it's the Phrygian mode of D, or it's F sharp Phrygian, depending, same thing, but just slightly different way of naming it. So then we go G. So that's G Lydian, because we've got the C sharp. If we put the C natural in, it becomes G major, but because we've got the C sharp, or the raised fourth, it's known as the Lydian mode of G. So A to A with a C sharp. So that's known as A Mixolydian, and that's used quite a lot in Irish and Scots tunes. It's like in the key of A major, but instead of a G sharp, we have a G natural. And it's used in quite a number of that mode. That A Mixolydian is used in quite a lot, as is D Mixolydian as well. So now we're going to B. Now that's known as the Aeolian mode of D, or B Aeolian. So the last one, C sharp to C sharp, is the devil's mode. It's very rarely used, and it does sound very strange. It's known as the Locrian mode, but we don't tend to use that really much at all. It sounds like this. And it's an unusual scale, and it's very rarely used, certainly not used much, if at all, in traditional music. So here we go. We're going to go all the way up and down each scale, and we're going to count in quavers or eighth notes at 60. 1, 2, 1, 2. So that's all our scales and all our modes at 60. So once you get comfortable with that, then do the same thing, but for each C sharp, you're going to add a C natural. So it's going to go. again, high C sharp. I use this fingering for the high C sharp. You can half hole it. Just use whichever works best for you. You can cross finger the high C sharp, and I say. And that fingering seems to work fairly nicely on most whistles. Okay, so once you've done that in slurred, we're going to do the same exercise, but we're going to do legato tonguing. So where in slurred we tongue the first note and then just let your breath and fingers carry the notes up and down the scale, we're going to very gently do a t, 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 t. Someone once explained it to me is, imagine you've got a faucet or a tap of water, and there's the water's running through the faucet or tap, and you're very gently with your finger just interrupting that flow. Da, 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 da. I thought that was an extremely good kind of graphic to imagine when you're doing legato tonguing. So you don't want to hear any gaps between the notes. So we don't want this. That's school recorder territory, and we don't want to get anywhere near that. So we want smooth, connected tonguing, so very gentle. So like this. Not like this. Yeah, we don't want any of those little gaps of silence. Not heavy tonguing, just very gentle legato tonguing. Yeah, so. It's exactly the same thing, except we're going to separate each note with that smooth legato tonguing. So I suggest you practice doing that slowly. So again, if I've got my click at 60, 1, 2. And so on. So you can go all the way up to the high D. So when you're tonguing the note, don't let your tongue touch the tip of the whistle. What I do with my tongue is the top of my teeth just behind my teeth, at the top of the roof of your mouth. So it's t, t, t. It's like you're saying a t, t, t. It's not a hard T, t. It's more of a soft t, 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 t. It's gentle. So tongue touches the roof of your mouth just behind your teeth. T, 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 t. And practice trying to get that really smooth. Yeah. So you might want to just practice going, say, from G, A, B, back down again smoothly. So yeah, practice that smooth legato tonguing. It will come eventually. But yeah, do listen very carefully. In fact, record yourself. Have a listen to how your legato tonguing is coming on. And if you can hear those little gaps, then we haven't quite got that there yet. And again, we don't want heavy tonguing like this. And the tendency when you first start is to tongue too heavily. It's the lightest of touches. So you want to separate the note, but only just so you can hear that it's a different note and it's clean, articulated with the tongue, but no gaps and no heavy tonguing. So as we did with the scales using C sharp and C natural, we can do the same thing that we did slurred, and we can tongue all those notes. So again, set my click to 60, 2, 1, 2. So we do that at the click. I've set that to 60. If you need to go slower, then that's fine. You can set your click to maybe 50. It might mean that you have to take a breath in between, which is, as I said, fine. If you need to breathe, you need to breathe. So just take a discreet breath where you can if you need to take a breath. And then just continue by tonguing the next note, or if you're slurring, tongue the next note and then let your fingers work up and down, being supported by your breath. So once you get fluent at doing the scales and the modes, then keep the click at 60, but we're going to go with 16th notes or semiquavers. And so we're just basically doubling the speed. And again, make sure that everything is even and fluent. So here's the count again. 1, 2, 1, 2. So I'll do it in quavers and in semiquavers. 1, 2. E. And then F. So eventually you can go from 8th notes or quavers to 16th notes or semiquavers, but you do make sure that the fluidity and the timing is correct. Yeah, you want evenness. Yeah, we don't want to build in unevenness into our playing. We want to build in correct tempo, correct evenness, fluidity, and nice flow, again with relaxed fingers. So it all sounds even. Any unevenness at this stage we want to try and iron out. So if you find when you're doubling the speed, going from quavers to semiquavers, then I would back the metronome off to maybe instead of 60, maybe back it off to, I don't know, 40. Let's try 46. So you're going to play semiquavers but slower than 60. So it's 1 and da 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 da. So that was at 46, which is absolutely fine. So rather than doubling the tempo at 60, we can take the metronome down to 46 or even slower, so that you're playing it a little bit quicker, and then you can build up your tempo to maybe go at 60 and at 60 with semiquavers. So again, we're going to do the same thing with tonguing. So I do suggest that maybe when you're starting the tongued scales, that you go at a slower rate. So I'm going to take mine all the way down to 40. So we want to make sure that when we're doing this in semiquavers or 16th notes, 4 notes per click, yeah, that it still remains smooth and legato. So 1, da 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 da. So, yeah, choose your tempo to suit you. I mean, eventually you'll be able to quite happily zoom it back up to 60 and play tongued and slurred. So you could, this is back to 60 now. And again, remember when you're doing these exercises to do it with C natural as well. So it would go. And again, that was around about 60, but make sure your tonguing is smooth and connected. So these scale exercises, again, they're probably not the most interesting of exercises to do, but they're great for helping you with your finger articulation, moving smoothly between one note and another note. They're also great to help working on your legato smooth tonguing too. So it's a great warm-up. And if you are inspired to do these exercises, then I suggest to start at your own pace. You don't have to start at 60, but do use a click or a metronome if you can, because it will help you to internalize your timing. Yeah, if you can do it with a click and follow a click, it does help to internalize your own timing. I know quite a few people really dislike using clicks, but they do have their merits. So I would say, if at all possible, try and work with one. I call it the great revealer, because it does show you if your tempo or your timing is out, even just slightly. And you may think you're in time, and you may come and check yourself against the metronome, and boy does it tell you the truth. So metronomes are useful, and they're a useful tool, and I suggest when you're doing these exercises, certainly maybe to start with, that you do use one. And again, if you're not sure about using a metronome or about any of the things that I've covered in this portion, then just leave a comment and I'll happily answer any of your questions. So let's move on and have a look at the next exercise, which will be moving in intervals. So moving in intervals. So we're going to start on bottom D, and we're just going to go D, E, D, F sharp, D, G, D, A, D, B. Then we come down, D, A, D, G, D, F sharp, D, E, D. And it sounds like this. So we'll do it slurred first. And watch when you're doing this for what I call finger lag. It's when you're not lifting your fingers cleanly, and you'll get this. It's when you get an interruption by another note, so it shows you're not moving your fingers cleanly from one note to the next. This is a great exercise to help you to overcome that. So again, like everything, let's start off slowly. And at the slower tempo, I needed to take a breath, but I just took the breath and then tongued the first note and then carried on with the pattern. So even if you need to do it much slower than that, and I suggest you do start slowly, I take a breath and then just carry on with the exercise. And again, if you can do it at 60, that's great. We will do it same thing with 8th notes and then 16th notes. So we do it on D, and we do it on E. Let me do that one again. So for E, we go all the way up to C sharp. So we're going up by one note each time, and then we're going up by one note each time when we go up. So F sharp. G. A. B. C sharp. And then back to D. And of course, remembering to lift that top finger for the D. With practice, you'll get used to always moving that D fingering, middle D fingering. Much more stable if you can play it that way, and you will get used to it. There are times when we can use what I call a cheat D, which is all fingers down as a passing note, but generally speaking, if possible, try and get used to fingering your middle D this way by lifting that finger. So again, we can do it at 60, and we can do it both tongued and slurred. So tongued. Right, so set my click to 60, and I'll just do it with the, and again, we can do this at 60, we can do this with C natural as well, which would sound, I'll do it from here. Get used to doing everything with C sharps and C naturals. Just do it once with C sharp, and then all you're doing is substituting your C sharps for C naturals second go around. So here we are at 60. 1, 2, 1, 2. So legato, slurred, and then tongued. 1, 2. And then D. And again, once you get fluent with that, you can maybe drop your click down to 40 and then do, let me just drop it down to 40, here we go, 40, yeah. And we can do it as semiquavers or 16th notes too. Da 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 da. and so on. And again, if you want, gradually speed up from 40 to, we get back up to 60 again, and then we can do the same thing. 1, da 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 da. And so on. Again, tonguing. And again, because we're moving not in scales but in intervals, yeah, you will definitely want to do this one a bit slower to start with. And again, take your time with it. Go as slow as you need to make sure the rhythm and the clarity of your fingering is good. So even if you go, so that's our interval exercises. So things to think about: tonguing, legato, smooth. Yeah, use the technique we talked about in the first part. Again, important that we do this smoothly, rhythmically and accurately to make sure that our finger positioning and our finger covering is consistent. And again, with this interval one, watch for the finger lag. You want to get used to moving those fingers. And if we tongue it, again, I don't expect you to do that at that speed, nor should you when you're first starting out. Keep it slow, keep it steady, and accuracy trumps speed all day long with this exercise. In fact, with all exercises. In fact, with everything you do on the whistle. Speed is the last thing to worry about, yeah? So if you think about it, accuracy always wins over speed. If something sounds messy or inaccurate slowly, when you speed it up, it's just going to sound messy and inaccurate and sloppy, but at a quicker rate. So work on your accuracy, certainly with these as well. Okay, folks, so this is the end of this first part. I think probably got enough to be going on with these exercises. There's lots and lots of other exercises which I'm going to show you, but these are great if you're a beginner to work on your technique, your finger articulation and your breathing and your tonguing, especially tonguing. Yeah, lots of beginners when they first start out, the tonguing really is quite sort of rigid and not fluid, and we want to get that legato tonguing going so that we can do things smoothly. Okay, so thanks for sticking with me through these exercises, and again, if you found this useful, if you could hit the subscribe button, and again, tell people about it. If you've got any comments, please leave them in the comment section below, and I shall see you shortly for part 2 of these exercises, technique exercises, whistle exercises, breathing, finger articulation, tonguing, all that sort of thing, folks. So for now, I will bid you farewell, and I shall see you shortly for part 2.